December 1944. The Pacific War has entered its most brutal chapter. The islands are falling one by one, Saipan, Guam, Leyte, but at a staggering cost. The U.S. Navy dominates the seas, yet every victory feels Pyrrhic. Kamikaze attacks turn triumph into horror. On the flight decks of American carriers, pilots whisper of a new aircraft, something that could carry more bombs, fly farther, survive longer. They call it Ed Heinemann's monster. The engineers at the Douglas Aircraft Company, led by designer Edward H. Heinemann, are building what they believe could be the ultimate attack plane, the XBT-2D1, later to be known as the A-1 Skyraider. But it's too late. The calendar says 1945, and the war is already shifting toward its violent conclusion. Yet, imagine for a moment a twist in time. What if that aircraft, born just months too late, had arrived early enough to fight? What if the most capable piston engine attack plane in history had taken flight not in peacetime testing, but in the inferno of the Pacific? This is that story. A story that almost happened. The Skyraider began as a desperate idea. By mid-1944, the Navy's dive bombers, the SBD Dauntless and SB-2C Helldiver, were aging fast. Carrier air wings were growing more complex, burdened by too many specialized types. The Navy wanted one plane that could do it all: dive bombing, torpedo runs, ground attack, and escort. Heinemann's team worked around the clock in El Segundo, California. They tore up blueprints, rewrote manuals, and built what they called a pilot's airplane. It had to be simple, rugged, and powerful. The design was radical. A Wright R3350 duplex Cyclone engine, 2,700 horsepower, mounted on a narrow fuselage. Its broad wings could carry more than 8,000 pounds of ordnance, more than a World War II B-17 bomber carried to Berlin. It was heavy, yet graceful in flight. By early 1945, the prototype, XBT-2D1, was ready for its maiden flight. In real history, that first flight happened on March 18, 1945. But in our story, testing is accelerated. The Navy, desperate for a new answer to Japan's kamikaze threat, rushes the prototype into flight in December 1944, just as the Battle of the Bulge rages in Europe. Test pilot Laverne Brown takes the controls. The aircraft lifts from the California runway, climbing steadily over the Pacific. Its roar echoes across the airfield, deep, confident, unlike any Navy aircraft before it. Within weeks, word spreads through the Navy's Bureau of Aeronautics. This new dive bomber, it could replace everything. The Navy's High Command takes notice. Admiral Mark Mitcher, commander of Task Force 58, sends a simple, urgent message: "Get me 12 of those planes now." By March 1945, the Pacific burns. U.S. Marines are fighting for every inch of Iwo Jima. Kamikaze planes scream out of the sky like meteors, crashing into destroyers and carriers. The Navy bleeds steel and fire. The new aircraft, still called BT-2D, is tested aboard the USS Enterprise, CV-6, near Ulithi Atoll. Pilots are skeptical at first. It's big, slow-looking, almost clumsy on deck. But the first combat simulations stun everyone. The Skyraider can stay airborne for 9 hours with external tanks, almost double that of a Corsair. Its control surfaces respond like silk, even under full bomb load. Heinemann's engineers rush to adapt it for combat. Armor plating is added. Rocket mounts are strengthened. Pilots train in dive bombing and skip bombing tactics. By May 1945, the first operational Skyraiders, now nicknamed
Able Dogs join Carrier Air Group 6 aboard the USS Bunker Hill, just in time for Okinawa, the largest amphibious invasion of the Pacific War, the last great battle before the planned invasion of Japan itself.
April 1945. The skies over Okinawa are chaos. Kamikaze attacks come in waves, hundreds at a time. American radar screens flicker with blips that vanish into fireballs. On April 30th, the Bunker Hill launches the first combat sortie of the new BT-2D Skyraiders. Their target? Japanese airfields on Kyushu, the launching points of suicide planes. Leading the mission is Lieutenant Robert or Bob Clemens, a soft-spoken farm boy from Kansas with a reputation for calm under fire. He and 3 others, flying Skyraiders numbered 301 to 304, climb to 10,000 feet and cross into enemy territory. They dive almost vertically at Kanoya Air Base. Each plane carries 4 500-pound bombs and 8 5-inch rockets. The attack is surgical. Runways shatter under the impact. Aircraft revetments erupt. Fuel depots go up in white fire. Japanese defenders report being attacked by at least a dozen bombers. In reality, it was 4 planes. The combination of firepower, endurance, and precision shocks both sides. American carrier commanders realize they can hit airfields deeper in Japan and still have fuel to return safely. In the following weeks, Skyraiders strike bridges, trains, and coastal convoys. Their engine noise becomes infamous. Japanese troops nickname it Bakudan Oni, the bomb demon. On May 11th, tragedy strikes. The Bunker Hill is hit by 2 kamikazes. 396 sailors die. But among the burning wreckage, 2 Skyraiders survive the explosions. Engines scorched, fuselages ripped apart, proof of the aircraft's durability. The men who fly them start to believe the Skyraider is blessed. By the summer of 1945, U.S. planners finalize Operation Downfall, the invasion of Japan. 2 massive amphibious assaults are scheduled. Operation Olympic, targeting Kyushu in November 1945. Operation Coronet, aimed at Honshu in March 1946. In this alternate timeline, Japan's surrender does not come in August. The atomic bomb project is still secret and untested. The war grinds on. The Skyraider becomes the spearhead of pre-invasion bombing. Flying from carriers near Okinawa and bases on captured islands, Skyraiders launch deep strike missions on southern Japan. Their endurance allows them to patrol for hours, hunting ships and supply trains. On September 12, 1945, a Skyraider squadron flies a daring low-level attack on Kagoshima Bay. Under heavy anti-aircraft fire, they destroy 2 cargo vessels and silence a coastal gun battery. Lieutenant Clemens's Skyraider is hit, 1 cylinder blown apart, fuel lines severed, but the aircraft limps 200 miles back to the carrier, landing with a dead engine. The event becomes legendary among Navy pilots. "She brought me home," Clemens tells reporters. As Operation Olympic begins in November, Skyraiders fly hundreds of sorties a day, providing close air support for U.S. Marines landing on Kyushu. They dive through rain and flak to blast bunkers and cave positions. Their slow, deliberate attack runs, once mocked, prove ideal for pinpoint strikes. Pilots can hover above the front lines for hours, responding instantly to ground calls. By winter 1945, the Japanese defense collapses. American forces capture Kyushu, but at staggering cost. Yet without the Skyraider's constant overwatch, those losses might have doubled. Military historians in later decades would write, had the Skyraider entered the war only months earlier, it might have shortened it by months more. By the spring of 1946, Japan finally surrenders. The emperor's voice cracks over the radio, announcing an end to a war that claimed tens of millions of lives. In this alternate history, the Skyraider is credited with transforming naval aviation. It proved that a single-seat attack aircraft could deliver the firepower of a bomber, the agility of a fighter, and the survivability of a tank. In real history, of course, it didn't happen this way. The first production Skyraiders rolled off the line just as peace returned. Its first true battles would come later, over the mountains of Korea and jungles of Vietnam. But its legend began in that narrow gap between war and peace, when the world stood poised between eras, piston engines giving way to jets, old tactics yielding to new doctrines. The Skyraider became a bridge between generations, between the gun-smoke skies of the Pacific and the missile-streaked clouds of the Cold War. Pilots who flew it in later years said the same thing. It was built too late for one war, but just in time for every fight that followed. And maybe that's the real story of the Skyraider. Not the plane that missed its war, but the plane that embodied every lesson from it.
In the closing months of World War II, America built an aircraft capable of rewriting the future of aerial warfare. But time, as always, had its own plans. The A-1 Skyraider never fired a shot in that war. But if it had, the final battles of the Pacific might have looked very different. This was the plane that came too late.